Hey guys, it's Kevin again. This is my review for the Vampire Diaries, Season 6, Episode 16, The Downward Spiral. And I was definitely looking forward to this episode because, of course, the hiatus left us on a very interesting cliffhanger. That is Caroline going to turn her humanity switch off? And I was very interested in seeing where this was going to go. And I have to say, I really like the direction they're taking the Vampire Diaries now. I really love it. I think this was definitely one of the stronger episodes. It definitely was not as good as the last episode, but that's just because this episode was different than that. And this episode is definitely more of a setup kind of episode. And I definitely really enjoyed it. I love where they're headed with it. I'm very interested in seeing where this is actually going to go. So, let's just get into this episode because I really liked it. And I actually forgot the Vampire Diaries actually returned yesterday, but it returned yesterday, so I have to review it. So, basically, we start at Skull Bar, and Caroline is drinking, and the bartender tells her, probably because she, is going through death and everything, she's trying to, going through loss and trying to find a way to cope with that grief. Sometimes people turn to drinking, and Caroline is one of those people. And the bartender tells her she's had too much, and he offers to call her a cab. And she tells her mom, who just died of horrible cancer, and she buried her 4 hours ago. She says the tequila is the only thing helping. He pours her another, and then we see Liam again, who we haven't seen Liam, I don't think, since episode 8, which I was very surprised to see Liam again, but hey, great to see him again. So, he slides over and says that she's sexy, and she says he's drunk and says he's cute, and she mentions that her mom just died and says she asks if he wants to get out of there, and she tells him nothing matters and flirts hard with her. And outside, she throws him against a car, makes out with him. He starts kissing her neck and then sets her off because she can hear his blood, and he sees her hunger face just before she digs in and snacks on him, and it's a very weird scene, but again, it's just her going through all this grief and everything. So Elena's checking the dorms, and she, of course, has no idea what happened to Caroline. Caroline, of course, broke her neck and made her unconscious, so she had no idea what happened to her. And every sign of Caroline is gone. Like, Caroline has gotten rid of everything, and Stefan checks her house, finds nothing there either. Stefan gets short with, nothing there either, and Stefan then gets short with Elena, and they agree to keep looking and checking later. So Bonnie shows up, and I have to say, I love seeing Bonnie and Elena, they're French. I love seeing them reunite in this episode. I was very happy that Bonnie came back in the last episode, and just to see her back was great to see, because Elena, this is what Elena needs right now. I mean, her one friend is going through a crisis. Yes, she needs Bonnie. That's what Elena needs, is that she needs Bonnie. And they hug, and Elena's thrilled, and Kai is with Damon, who's digging up his mother. Now, of course, Damon, really found out that his mother, is possibly still alive, and he's trying to figure out what's going on with his mother. So Kai tells him digging up his mom's grave is both dark and unnecessary, and Damon says his mom died of consumption in 1858, and can't be in the 1903 time prison, which does make sense, but again, think about what time travel does. Every time you go through time, you can create an alternate reality. What I think happened is that Bonnie and Damon somehow created an alternate reality where his mother did not die of consumption, that she is somehow still alive. And I don't know how they did it, but I just feel like that's really what's going on here. It makes the most sense, and I think that's really what it is, that they create some sort of an alternate reality. What it is exactly, I can't tell you, but I definitely feel like they create an alternate reality, and I'm very interested in seeing if you guys agree with me, because I definitely feel like that is definitely what is going on there. I think they, as I said, I definitely feel like they create an alternate reality. So, basically, Kai says maybe his mother's like Damon, but Kai says maybe she's a vampire, and Damon rants at him, and Kai asks if he's so sure why he hasn't opened the coffin. I really like seeing Kai be in this more, helpful position, and not as much as a villain, because Kai really is a great character, and I want to see him stay on the show. He adds this level of humor to the show, and I love that about his character, and I think this episode really used that to its advantage. They always use that, Kai to his advantage, and he really is, as I said, he's making the season, but now I feel like Caroline's character is making the season, because, I mean, we haven't had too much for Caroline to do in a while, so just to see her back in this position is awesome to see. Just to see her basically as the front runner of the show right now is also awesome. So there's nothing there. So basically, Damon rants him. Kai asks if he's so sure why he hasn't opened the coffin, and there's nothing there. And Kai says everything Damon thought he knew about his mom was wrong. So clearly, Kai knows more secrets about his mom. What it is, we don't know yet. So Sarah sits in a bar, and she's snapping photos of Enzo, who's up in the balcony, and he sneaks up on her and says to shoot his left side from now on. She asks about his blood, and he offers to have a cup of tea with her. I have to say, I haven't really been enjoying Sarah and Enzo's plot. I didn't really care about it, but this episode I cared about because it actually intertwined with the main plot, which I really like. If they keep doing that, then I'm going to be very happy with that. So Bonnie is happy to have her clothes back, and then flinches when Elena pops the cork on the champagne. I mean, she hasn't changed clothes in such a long time. Think about it. She has been in 1994 for like months now, and she hasn't been able to change clothes. She hasn't seen any of her friends. It's been such a different time period, and just to see all this stuff back is just so welcoming to her. It really makes me think of what would happen if that happened to me, and makes you guys think that definitely, and I love it that scene shows that. So they toast, and Bonnie says all that matters is that she's back, and she asks if she drove Jeremy away to art school, and asks Elena not to tell Jeremy that she's back yet, and she says she wants him to have a shot at school before he comes running back to see her. Now, I definitely feel like we're going to see Jeremy again. Possibly the finale. I kind of felt like a possibility that Jeremy could pop up in the finale. I definitely could see that happening. The season finale, I could definitely see him popping up there. But we'll have to see what ends up happening there. So I think that is very interesting. I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen there. So Caroline shows up loaded with shopping bags and surprises them both. And Caroline says she's starting over. She's got new everything. Then she notices Bonnie. And she's not excited, but just takes it in stride. And Caroline tells them that she ran into Liam at the bar. And at this point, I'm thinking, okay, she definitely turned off her humanity switch. You can tell that she turned it off. You can just tell here that her humanity switch is gone. I mean, the way she's acting here, now really reacting to Bonnie, her humanity switch is basically gone. But one of the things I like about Caroline is even though they turned off her humanity switch, it's not like Elena where her entire personality changes. No, Caroline is still that fun person that she is, and she wants to be like that. And to her, this humanity switch is a good thing. So, I like that it was different than Elena, because honestly, if you guys know, I didn't really like that storyline. I felt they turned Elena into a very bitchy person, but seeing Caroline that way is awesome to see, and I think Candace Coolidge is just killing it in this. She is killing it, and she's doing a fantastic job. So Caroline says to never tell the story. She says the little voice in her head that tells her when to stop never piped up, so she ate more. She stops and says she's not in the mood to drag his corpse into the woods wearing heels, and she decided not to kill him because it would be so convenient and inconvenient. And she says she turned off her humanity but didn't turn into an idiot. And Bonnie says it's like Caroline, but it's not. And it's just like Elena, but it's very different than Elena, because Elena was more like, get out of my way, you're a bitch, blah, blah, blah. But Caroline's more like just her normal self, except she has no real emotion to her. So she tells them she'll behave as long as they let her have a year to live like she wants, and she says she won't kill anyone, but if anyone tries anything to flip her switch back on, she'll become their worst nightmare, and she smiles and says she's going to get a latte and head out. So Damon and Stefan talk about Caroline's humanity switch, and Stefan worries she'll kill someone, but Damon says it's not his fault, that he figured out too late that he cared for her. And it's true. I mean, you could tell, ever since those two were friends, you could tell they had chemistry. You could tell it was definitely more than just, friendship. You could tell it was more than that. And I think I really do agree with Damon is saying, that Damon should have told her up front, earlier that he was in love with her, because there were times where he was going to tell her that, and he didn't get a chance to. There was an episode in last season where I thought that's what he was going to tell her, and it didn't happen, so I can definitely side with Damon there. So Kai's with Damon and asks why he didn't mention to Stefan that their mom is alive in some sort of psycho, which is why she's in a time prison. And Damon asks him to send him to a 1903 prison, and Kai says they need that particular ascendant, and Damon says as head, which he should know where it is, and Kai says he does. So Damon asks what he wants, and Kai says he can't stop thinking about Bonnie and what he did to her. And I really like this, actually. They're humanizing Kai, and I love that. I mean, the more episodes we go on, the more human Kai gets, and the less monstrous he becomes. And he really does feel bad about torturing Bonnie. He says he wants to see and apologize to her, and tells Damon to make it happen, and I really did like that. So Sarah's annoyed that Enzo is being cryptic and will only give his first name. And she says she has photos of his weird vein thing and wants to know more about him. So Enzo zips over, snatches the card, says he's fast, then he snaps and says he's strong. She complains it was $70, and he says that he's rich and tosses her some cash. So she asks what he is, and he says he's a vampire, Anne Rice and the Dreadful Twilight thing. And I thought that was a really funny line. So Caroline walks over and says vampires are so over anyway, and Caroline asks if that's Stefan's Sarah, and, if that's Stefan's and Sarah, then Enzo compels her to the bar to get a drink. So Caroline says she doesn't really care what he's doing with Sarah, and he realizes that she flipped her humanity, and of course when you flip your humanity, you can't compel anyone. So he can't compel her, and there's nothing he can do about that. So she invited him to a party and left, and Stefan finds Liam and compels him to answer some questions honestly. And I like what he did here. He asked him point blank, did you see Caroline last night? Liam says they made out hardcore. Stefan asks if there was any biting. Liam says he nibbled her bottom lip a little, and Stefan asks if she bit him. And Liam asks if Stefan is into her, and he says he's not, and she's single. And Liam says he's late for a party. Stefan is weirding him out. He says he's going to a party with Caroline later. If he wants to show up and watch, Stefan calls Elena and asks if she wants to go to a rave. So they basically decide to go to this party because, why shouldn't they go to this? They should go to this party to, to see Caroline and everything, to see what's going on with her. So it's probably the best thing for them to do. So Elena and Bonnie split up at the party to look for Caroline, and Elena works her way through the crowd and sees Caroline hanging all over a guy and dancing. She then looks at Elena and vamps out and starts to bite him, then stops and whispers, "I'm fine," so that Elena can hear her. So Bonnie walks around the other side of the party, and a guy hits on her, and she says she's looking for someone. He tells her to party and to have fun. He grabs her, and she says, "Down, boy." And the guy says that she's hot, and she uses her magic to steam his hands, so he'll get his hands off her, then walks away. So Stefan tells Elena that Caroline seems to have healed Liam and compelled him, which I think is really interesting. And Elena says Caroline is covering her tracks and just restocked her blood bag. And she says Caroline hasn't actually hurt anyone and may actually have this under control. And Stefan says Caroline is going to snap, and this year won't go well, neither will her turning that switch back on. Now, that could happen, but I kind of feel like Caroline would not do that. There's a scene in this episode where I really do feel like that's how Caroline's going to be. Really, I could see that happening. And Stefan says this is her fault and says he could have stopped it if he just told her how he felt about her. And I like that Stefan is blaming himself because he was such a dick in the first half of the season that I like that now he actually is realizing that, yeah, it was his fault. The whole reason that this happens is because Stefan was not there for her in this time, and she really wanted him to be there, but she just doesn't really trust him right now because of what's happened to him. He distanced himself from all his friends and everything, and just him doing that, he feels so bad about that, and I really love seeing that from Stefan. This is the kind of Stefan that I love seeing. I love this about Stefan. So Elena asks what his plan is, and Bonnie gets a call from Damon, and she says she's glad he called, and he asks if Caroline's off the rails. He says the relationship only exists back in 1994. Then jokes and says he's like a fever she can't shake and calls him a disease. He asks if she's okay, and she says she slammed some guy with her magic and asks if he slid back into his life. I love their friendship, I have to say. That they're one of my favorite friendships on this show. He reminds her when he came back, his brother was an auto mechanic, and his girlfriend forgot him. And he tells her that Kai's now, and I love that he just catches her up on everything that happened in like a few minutes. He tells her that Kai's now a warmer, fuzzier Kai, and she says she never wants to hear his name again. And she asks what favor he won. He says he'll figure it out for himself, and Kai asks what's going on. And Damon says Bonnie doesn't believe there's a new him, because Bonnie doesn't think that people can change, which I can understand. Who would have thought that Kai would just instantly change? Nobody would have thought that about Kai. So Damon says it's not going to happen, and Kai says that's a shame, then says the Mama Salvatore story is pretty fantastic. He says he checked in the Gemini archives and says Lily was captured on docks in New York in 1903 and was picked up there. So Kai says maybe their mom was coming for him, and he says she just came back from Europe, and maybe Bonnie will change her mind by the time he finds her a cough drop. So Caroline is drinking at the bar with Stefan, who smiles at her. She says he's hot for a babysitter, and he says he's not there to babysit her. She says they don't think she can live a normal, no humanity existence. And Stefan says he came to tell her how he felt about her, but she was gone. She tells him she doesn't care. He says he wants to be more than friends, but it scared him, so he pushed it away. She says it only took a couple of years, cancer to devour her mom, and then he finally spit it out. He tells her to let in and promises to be there for her and to give him a chance, touches her face and says please, and he asks her to come back to him, and Caroline looks at him and says he shouldn't have done that. Then she's gone, and so she's basically gone. That whole relationship that we were looking forward to, it cannot happen now because Caroline has no humanity. She's not going to be with someone who she has no humanity with, so she's not going to be with Stefan, which is really sad to see, but Caroline turned off her humanity switch, and again, it's kind of Stefan's fault. So you can't really blame her for what she's doing, but at the same time, I can totally understand why he's upset at her. So Caroline finds Liam. She asks where he's been. Then she says he's boring, and that's why Elena dumped him. And she asks how he is at surgery, and he says a sophomore in pre-med, so terrible. She says that's perfect and tells him to come with her. And outside, Enzo pulls up and she asks where his date is, and he says Sarah didn't find him as fascinating as he does. She laughs at him and says Stefan will protect Sarah at all costs, and she tells him that if she didn't want anyone getting into trouble with vampires, what would she do? And Enzo realizes she's telling him what Stefan did, and he compelled Sarah to be totally disinterested in anything to do with vampires. And Caroline offers to show Enzo some of her other talents, but he says it wouldn't be any fun when she's not really herself. So she stole his phone, looks up at Sarah's number, and Bonnie is pretty uncomfortable at this party. She really does not feel welcomed, probably because she's just been in 1994 and she's so out of touch with the rest of the world. So Damon shows up and she asks why he's there. He tells her not to freak out. That Kai walks out and he says hi, and Damon says to get it over with. Kai is nervous, and Damon tells him to spit it out. He says he wants to apologize for anything he did that hurt her, and Bonnie thinks about all the many things he did to her, including shooting her with a crossbow bolt, and she says if she sees his face again, she'll melt it off, and she leaves. And you can see that she really wants nothing to do with him, which is understandable. I mean, he basically kept her there and trapped her there. I mean, he took off in that car and everything. It's understandable why she really doesn't want anything to do with him, just because of the fact that he just completely ditched her. I mean, that's really why she never got back. If you remember, in episode 8, she was like this close to getting back, and then he just took off in that car without her. So Kai says he imagined that going differently, and Stefan tells Elena that he saw it in Caroline's eyes, that she's still in there, and he's the emotional trigger. She says Caroline told her that she would retaliate if they pushed her, and Stefan says they need to find her and lock her up until he can get her back. And Caroline calls Stefan from Enzo's phone and says she stole the phone, and he needs to ask himself where Sarah Salvatore is and what she's going to do to her. And Sarah shows up, and Stefan asks what she's doing. He has no idea what's about to happen here, and this whole scene was very intense, and I have to say, Candace Accola was creepy in this scene. This was legitimately creepy, and I love that. I love seeing this creepy side of Caroline, because we've seen bitchy Caroline, we've seen happy Caroline, we've seen stuck-up Caroline, we've seen hilarious Caroline. We haven't really seen a dark side of Caroline, and I really love seeing that in this episode. I think Candace Accola, if they keep going in this direction, I'm gonna love what they're doing with Caroline. This is awesome, because this is borderline creepy what she's doing here. And Caroline tells Stefan she's gonna kill her, then literally just drops the phone after that. And Damon follows an angry Bonnie and tells her it's just him. He says this is about his mom. Bonnie says she told him she didn't want to see Kai again and made it clear. She used her magic to inflict on Damon all the hurts that Kai inflicted on her, and she says she lied, stabbed her, shot her with a crossbow, shoved her in a trunk, and she says then he left her go there alone. And she says she can't show him what that feels like, and she lets go of her magic, and Damon gasps. And I get her points. I really do get her points. I understand what she's saying, but she should at least try to listen to him. At least try to listen to reason, because it's the best you can do. So Bonnie tells him to get out, and Damon says he's sorry, but she screams him to get out, and he goes. And Elaine and Stefan find Caroline at the bar making margaritas, and she says Sarah's with Liam, helping with his surgical skills, and Liam screams that he doesn't want to do this. And Stefan tells Caroline that he's sorry for pushing her, and she's compelled Liam to do horrible surgical things to Sarah, and Elena tells her once this is over, she'll regret this forever like Elena did after flipping her switch. And that's one of the things that Elena completely regrets doing, and I can see Caroline regretting it, but at the same time, Caroline kind of needs it right now. She really does not need this constant emotion, and that's why she did it. She turned off her humanity switch because, if you remember, she didn't want the emotion in her life, and it wasn't that she didn't want to deal with it, it was just that she just didn't really want this emotion. She went through that whole thing with Stefan, it was just too much for her. So I really did like that. So Caroline says she compelled the student to perform surgery on Stefan's niece, and Elena managed to make this about her. And Stefan begs Caroline and says he'll leave town or do what he wants. And she says it doesn't matter how far away he is, he'll still be Stefan, which is true. And she says she knows he can bring her back, and she can't have that. So the only solution is to change him. And that's the other thing I like about Caroline, is even though she has no humanity, her memories are still intact. So this is kind of just her inner rage and her inner anger, which I really do like. She tells Stefan to flip his switch if he wants to save his niece. Elena says no way, and Caroline says Stefan can think for himself. Stefan says it won't happen, and Caroline tells Liam to cut out Sarah's spleen, and Caroline says she can live without it. So basically, what has to happen is that Stefan has to flip Sarah's switch and turn her humanity off so she won't work with Enzo anymore. Which, honestly, is a pretty good plan, I have to say. And if this is what Caroline wants to do, I kind of feel like Caroline is going to try to get all these people to turn off their humanity switches and kind of agree with what she's doing. And I think that's really interesting as well. So Caroline says she can live without it, and Liam cuts into Sarah's body, and she screams, and Stefan's reminding Liam that he compelled him to tell the truth and ask where he is. Liam says he's at Whitmore Medical, and Stefan sends Elena racing to save Sarah. This is such an intense scene. I thought they were going to kill Sarah. I really did. And Caroline says she won't make it in time, tells Liam to take out her heart. Stefan attacks Caroline. She gets the better of him, puts a stake right through his back, and she grabs her phone, asks Liam if he's still there, and Damon sits drinking when Kai comes in. And basically, when Kai comes in, he asks if he can bring his mom back, and Damon says it sounds like Kai is asking him to kill him. And Kai says there are only 2 witch prisons ever created. The one to house him in 1994 and the one in 1903 to hold Mrs. Salvatore and all her crazy pants. So Damon rants at him and says he told him they could get her back. And Kai says he's telling him as a semi-sane person he really doesn't want her back. And he says he's trying to save his life. And he tells Damon that his mom is a ripper. And she turned in 1858, faked her death, went to Europe where she went nuts, bodies piled up, then she moved, and he says she killed more than 3,000 people, and the Coven made it their job for some reason to lock her up. He says she killed a ship full of people when they found her in the harbor. They had to burn it to destroy evidence of the carnage, and Damon tells him that's enough, and you gotta feel bad for them, because, I mean, Damon was a ripper once, and then Stefan was a ripper, and it all makes sense, because their mother was really a ripper, and I can understand why Damon's upset, though, because, I mean, he's just finding this stuff out for the first time, and the fact that his mother didn't tell him this stuff I find very interesting, and I definitely am interested in seeing where that's going to go. So Bonnie leaves Jeremy a message saying she's back and was planning to drive out to school to see him, but says she's not sure if she's the Bonnie he wants to be with, because she really has changed. Really, I mean, going through 1994, she's gotten a lot smarter, a lot more powerful. She's very different now, and she's not sure if she likes who she is or not, and she looks at the crossbone scar on her abdomen, and Elena's at the hospital looking for Liam and Sarah. It's chaotic. She's straining to hear them, heads onto the stairs as Liam gets out a bone saw. He tells her he's never used one before and is sorry. Sarah screams, and Caroline tells Stefan it hurts her to watch him. Caroline asks Liam why Sarah stopped screaming. He says she passed out, and she tells him to kill her, then call her when it's done, and Caroline gets a call from Elena on Stefan's phone, and Elena asks where they are. Elena says she can't find them anywhere. And Stefan tells Elena to remember to bring him back, and he's going to flip. So basically, they're possibly going to flip, Stefan's switch, and I think that's really interesting that's what was going on. I mean, Liam's switch, they're going to flip Liam's switch, and Elena says no, but it's too late, he did it, and Caroline smiles. Elena hears a sound, goes running. She finds Liam covered in blood, and he tells Elena he's sorry. She bites her wrist and feeds Sarah. Liam says he has to take out her heart, reaches for Sarah, but she snaps both his wrists so he can't, and Elena calls Stefan and says she found Sarah, and she's going to be okay. He's pouring a margarita, and she asks if he'll be okay. He says he'll be okay in 1 second, then takes a sip, and you can tell she can tell there's something going on there, and she tells him not to shut it off, and he says he won't, hands the phone to Caroline, who's lying on the bar, and this scene was just awesome here. What Caroline says at the end of this episode, just awesome, and she's just like, oh yeah, he shut it off, and that's how the episode ends. So Caroline has gotten Stefan to now turn off his humanity switch, and she doesn't have a humanity switch either. So now we got more of a problem here, because not only does Caroline not have her humanity switch, but Stefan doesn't have a humanity switch. So who I think the villains are going to be are themselves. Caroline and Stefan are going to be the 2 big villains now. I kind of feel like the humanity switch is the big villain of this season, because it's all about, this whole season I've said has been about humanity and human things and just trying to do things like humans, and turning off your emotions isn't going to get you anywhere, and I think that's really what this is trying to show. However, Caroline I kind of like her in this position as not having her humanity switch. I do like it. I think it's well done with her character. I like that Stefan doesn't have humanity switch now, but Stefan really wanted to tell her that he loved her, and that was holding him back, so I'm happy that she got him to do it as well. As far as Liam and Sarah, I kind of feel like they're going to convince them to turn off their humanity switch, but of course, Liam's a human, so unless they bite him, he's not going to turn into a vampire anytime soon, so I don't know what's going to happen there. Let's talk about Damon and Kai. I really like this team up. I really do like seeing the 2 of them work together. Now, Damon and his mother, he needs to find a way to kill his mother, because his mother's a psychopath and she's crazy. I just feel like there's something that Kai is not telling him. I don't know what it is yet, but I just feel like there's something there's more to it than just what Kai said to him. Bonnie needs to definitely forgive Kai. I understand she's changed and everything, but she's not even happy with herself right now, and it's just because she's so distanced from everyone else, and I really do feel bad for her. But hopefully Kai is able to convince her that she can trust him, and overall, guys, I have to say, really solid episode. Great episode. Absolutely loved it. I was surprised by how much I really liked this episode, especially because of Sarah and Enzo. I actually really enjoyed this episode, even with them in it. I thought it was great. So, I really enjoyed this episode. Let me know what you guys saw this episode. Overall, guys, I love this episode. I'll see you guys in my next video, which will be my review for Glee. So, I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.